I keep telling you, I get the message now when you start recording a meeting. So there's no mistaking when you're actually recording this, so I know when I can start talking. Robert Kraft's friends got him a Bentley for his 80th birthday. I'm wondering, what am I doing wrong in my life? My friends don't get me a Bentley. Why doesn't anybody like me that much? Apparently, I've got to make friends with Jay-Z and Meek Mill and the chairman of Fanatics and a couple of other people because I'm not getting a Bentley. Nobody gave me a Bentley for my 40th birthday.
I'd say you'd have a better shot if you make friends with that crew than you have with us.
Hey, what'd you get for us for our birthday?
Same thing I got you every year.
By the way, you'll be
driving a hearty handshake.
You'll be driving the Bentley to my funeral by the time it's your 80th birthday.
Yeah. In the words of the immortal Mel Brooks, I gave you the same thing I gave you every year: a laurel and a hearty handshake. Well, that can only mean one thing, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for the worst 120 minutes in all of sports podcasting. Yes, that's right. It is time once again for the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. And as always, I'm joined by my good friends, London Sean. How goes it, sir?
It goes very well, thank you, Mike. Very well indeed. Everyone is getting very excited on this side of the globe with the imminent start of the Euros 2020. They couldn't call it 2021 because they had manufactured all of the memorabilia for the Euro 2020 and didn't want to rebrand it all to Euro 2021. So we're playing for the first time a proper football tournament a year behind. So we should all know who the winner is, really, but unfortunately we don't. And it looks as though it could be anyone's, as they say. This time.
A wise man once said, football's a very simple game. They play for 90 minutes and the Germans win.
True. I think this is the first time that might not come true.
Well, we will get into that as we go on. We have our cast of millions all ready to go and tell us who may or may not win the Euros. Mr. Stead, how goes it, sir?
It's going okay. A little tired as usual, but can't complain too much. I'm still up. I am looking forward to, probably for the first time in a long time, I'm actually looking forward to some international soccer, which normally I loathe and just wait for the club games to come back. But I'm actually looking forward to it. There's a lot going on.
I'll tell you what, this is a good summer because we have the Euros, we have Copa America, we have the Gold Cup. It is going to be one of those blockbuster summers. But I digress a little bit. I will say, maybe my friends don't buy me Bentleys, but I will tell you, my boss apparently likes me. You know how I know? Because apparently last week I walked in and there was a bottle of homebrewed beer sitting on my desk. The gift that keeps on giving. Speaking of which, Mr. Peter, how goes it, sir?
All is well. Yeah, I just got in a glycol chiller for my brew kit, which will allow me to make like lagers. So I'm excited about that.
I'm looking forward to. You said this was an English bitter. I'm looking forward to putting that in the fridge and trying that. Thank you very much. We have now have competition for British Will.
British Will, that's right. I know. He better get on his deliveries again.
Yeah, because Peter is brewing beer now, so we're gonna try this, and we're gonna let British Will know where he's failing, because this could be some good stuff. I'm looking forward to
first batch. Don't expect too much of it.
Hey, anything's better than nothing.
Has it got a name, Peter? Has it got a name? Have you named your British bitter?
It is the beer that must not be named.
The beer that must not be named. Okay.
Sean, I'll try and I'll tell you how it is and send you a scouting report, because I'm pretty sure that it will not keep. Like, I'd really love to send you some of this stuff over to the South Coast, but I'm pretty sure it just doesn't make it that far. And you know how I know? Because before it would get in the package, I would drink it.
So this beer has no name, needs no name because of a variety. It was the first batch I've made with this new equipment, and so there were many technical difficulties in the middle. So I think there is no chance whatsoever of repeating this beer, this flavor profile.
Okay. It's not worthy of a name at the minute.
Nope.
No.
But we shall try it and we shall enjoy it. But Peter, we want to get started and talk about Copa America, the tournament that's a year late. And at this point, there are 10 nations in South America, and apparently we are right now on our 14th host. It seems like this tournament is moving like every couple of days. I'm pretty sure if I check tomorrow, it's going to be in Chicago.
Well, they were talking about moving it to the States. That was probably the front runner before Bolsonaro and pulled this one out and said, "Oh, we'll host it." Even though we're the South American nation with the most COVID.
So before we get too invested in who's going to win this, is this tournament even going to happen?
It is. The Brazilian team, the reports that came out today are that the Argentinian team has been given permission to fly back to a bubble in Argentina after every game. So they're in. Brazil, the Brazilian players have now they're not going to make a statement until after the eliminatories game tomorrow. They have a game against Paraguay for the World Cup eliminated. I don't know, what do you call it in English? Eliminatories.
Qualifiers.
Qualifiers. Thank you. Yes, that's the word. So they have a game tomorrow. They didn't want to release a statement before that. There was a lot of speculation that they were going to boycott, but now it sounds like they're going to play. That's what I read today about an hour ago. They're going to play. So if Argentina's in and Brazil's in, I think everybody else follows suit. So there's a lot going on. One of the reasons that the Brazilian players have relented is that they've just suspended the president of the CBF, the Brazilian Federation, for I think 90 days. I can't remember. It's 30 or 90 days for sexual harassment. And they wanted him out. They think that he's responsible. But it's interesting because this is all about Bolsonaro, and about half the team, I don't know, a good handful of players are pro Bolsonaro, and then probably more of the players are anti-Bolsonaro. But like Neymar is a Bolsonaro guy, so you get the big names, and it's hard for the rest of the guys to sort of pull away from their gravity.
So we have a tournament. We also have Los. Los, how goes it, sir?
We're here. Sorry I couldn't be here last week, but anyway, we were gone last week, and I got back a couple days ago. This cat would not leave me alone. She was left alone and felt lonely and howling, lost her voice, like laryngitis, I noticed when I got back. So I stepped out to go take care of the trash, and my wife was like, "That cat was howling while you were out." No, what do you want me to do? She missed me. Look, look at this. She's pet me. Anyway.
So, Los, Peter just told us that we're actually going to likely have a tournament. Now, he's a Brazil guy. We had to establish that first before we get into a preview of Copa America. Let's make sure that Copa America is actually going to happen.
COVID America.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
COVID America. So, I heard Championship of Death is what I heard it described as. I even got a mascot here. Can I share the screen? Share my screen here. Okay, here. This is a mascot. I got this off of HBO the last week tonight with John Oliver. He talked about the problems in Brazil, and he shared this as the logo for the upcoming tournament. So there you are. So
that's just wrong. That's just wrong on so many levels. That's wrong.
Anyway, so
At least it only took me all of 14 minutes for this show to go off the rail tonight.
oh,
New
Pat
record.
hasn't even got here yet. Yeah, Coach G
Yeah.
isn't here yet, so just
No, I
wait.
saved him for the middle of the show. I have to have discernible distance in between him and Peter, because at least for the next couple of days, Peter's still my boss. So ergo, I can't have Pat come on right after him, because then I really might get fired. But anyway, we have a tournament. You're an Argentina guy, Brazil. Peter's a Brazil guy, and now I get to sit in the middle of this, because that's actually how you guys appear on my screen, and allow you to fight it out. Peter, what can we expect from Brazil from this tournament?
I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. Brazil struggles at home. They struggle in home matches in the qualifiers. They struggle with home matches. They have a lot of pressure on them. I actually think having empty stadiums will help them. They have an incredible team. If you look player by player for Brazil, it's always about learning how to play as a collective. You have so many stars, so many guys who, when they go back to their club teams, they're one of the top 2 or 3. That being another cog in the machine is hard for them. And I think that they play, when they're at their worst, they're very disjointed because of that. So it's all about, the last time when they won that World Cup so many years ago, of course, it was Felipão who was also the coach this past time, the time they got trounced by. But Felipão, he forged out of the team an identity and a sense of like togetherness. And that, to me, is what made the difference for that team. They've got all the talent they need to win the tournament. The question is, can they play a style of football, of collective football that will yield the championship?
Of the 2 groups, you would have to say that they have the slightly easier of the 2. They're in with Colombia, who will be a tough test, but Ecuador, a Peru team that is much down since their World Cup, and Venezuela. Whereas Argentina is going to have to go up against a Chile team that's sort of kind of rebuilding, but also a Uruguay team that's pretty tough. How do you see it?
Bolivia's been hot too.
Bolivia's
been hot recently.
Yeah. Before I get to you, Los, Peter, how do you see it going for them in the group stage as they make this slog through the 4 games to get out of this?
Well, the group this year is a little bit of a joke because, the group stage is a little bit of a joke. They've got, what is it? They've got how many teams? 10 teams? Because the 2 international teams backed out. So they had 10 teams and 8 are going to make it in. So I feel confident that they're going to make the next round. It's always tough. South American games are always tough. Brazil's playing really well. They're 5-0 right now in qualifying. See what happens tomorrow. That'll be a big game. Paraguay. They're almost. They're at that point, and this has happened before where they're at that point where they could get far enough ahead of the 4th place team, which is the last spot on the qualifying table. If they're far enough ahead of that, the 5th place team, because the first 4 slots make it in. If they're far enough ahead of that 5th place team, they take their eye off the ball. They start to play bad soccer because they're so far ahead they don't care anymore. And it's good to have Copa America around to sort of hone your. But it's funny because historically Brazil is not a big Copa America team. They've won it a lot fewer times than Argentina. They've won it less than other teams. It's just never been Brazil's thing, Copa America.
But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they've won 4 of the last 7. So they've had a pretty good run going on for a little bit. And they are the defending champions.
They are. That is true.
So, Los, you're on the other side of this. Talk about Argentina.
Well, the main person I'm watching when watching Argentina isn't the elephant in the room, isn't Lionel Messi. It's Giovanni Lo Celso, because he's a Spurs guy. So that's the guy I want to see play well. I want to see him flourish, and I like to see for him, to make have a good run with Argentina and get deep into the tournament. But let's talk about Messi, because that's what everybody wants to talk about, is Lionel Messi. This guy, when the World Cup was played in Brazil a few years back, and they were in the final, his lament was that the fans in the stadium were rooting against his squad while they were playing Germany. And he's like, what South American country roots against another South American country to lose? And I'm like, well, you got to remember, Brazil and Argentina, they kind of, they kind of butt heads. And that's been around forever. My first indoctrination to a World Cup match was watching Argentina versus Brazil in the second round of the 1978 World Cup. And it was a 0-0 draw, but it was a bloodbath. Well, not bloodbath. It was bad. It was tackles galore and very few cards and no send-offs. Not by today's standards. Today's standards, it would have been several send-offs. But the one image that sticks with me, and I was a high schooler at the time, when that sticks with me with that particular game was when a Argentinian player, I don't even know who it was, took out a Brazilian player near the corner flag, and it was away from the play. Everyone, the ball was there, but he realized he had done something wrong, and he realized, oh crap, I'm going to get in trouble. I might get a card. So he went down next to the other guy, faking an injury, and it went on for about 4 or 5 minutes. They're getting treatment. Magic sponge comes out there, and the Brazilian player gets up and kind of hobbles. He seriously got hurt. And the Argentina player waited until the Brazil player was up and moved about, and then he sprung up and ran down the field. I'm good to go, but didn't get any sort of sanction whatsoever. So that was my introduction to Argentina, Brazil, and it hasn't really changed much. It's been pretty cutthroat over the years. So I'm not sure why Messi was surprised at the reception he got in the World Cup final back in Brazil. Was that 2012? I forget what year that was.
That would have been
14.
Brazil World Cup would have been
14.
2014.
Yeah.
I can tell you this. I was there that summer, and I came back like a week before the disaster against Germany, and like all anyone in Brazil had to say was, there is no way. Like the last time Brazil hosted the World Cup, they lost in the final to Uruguay. And it was like, my father-in-law would talk about it, and he would talk about what a tragedy it was. And I've been in Brazil when they've lost, when they've been sent out of the cup. And it's a day of mourning. I mean, nobody, the next day, everyone is down, super down. Like somebody died. To lose the World Cup in Brazil and then to see Argentina win the World Cup in Brazil, that would be devastation, right? Absolute devastation. There is no way a Brazilian crowd could root for Argentina in a World Cup final in Brazil. Not a chance.
Right. I'm not even sure why Messi felt that they should have been rooting for him, except that they're neighbors, and we as a continent should be trying to beat the Europeans. I think that was the first time a European country won outside the hemisphere.
It was the first time that
second time.
Yeah. No,
Spain won in Africa.
Spain won in Africa, but it was the first time that a European team had won in South America.
Yes.
But let's give Germany credit. At least they were wearing kits that were inspired by I believe it was Flamengo, I believe. The red and black hoops. So technically they were a Brazilian team at that point, because they were playing in kits that looked like Brazilian teams kit. So ergo by the transitive property, they're a Brazilian team.
Man, I start calling you Stretch Armstrong, man. That was too much. Too much stretch there. Watch out, the jelly's gonna come out.
So, but beyond, okay, so Brazil uh, and Argentina are clearly going to be the headliners of this tournament, but there are some other good squads that we need to pay attention to. Um, Always a huge fan of Colombia. I think that they have a good team. They've been on a renaissance for the last probably 8 years. It might be at the point where that golden era is peaking a little bit for them. But um, Peter and Los, who are some teams that we should pay attention to? I'll start with you, Los. Give me somebody who I should watch out for who's not Brazil or Argentina.
Well, like I was saying earlier, Bolivia is playing hot recently, so I think that's a team that will definitely win some matches and be in the top four. I guess it's more. For me, it's easier to think of who do I think won't be in the next round, because 8 out of the 10 go. I mean, it's almost like the NBA playoffs where just about everybody goes. So. I would say the two teams that I would think that would struggle to move out would probably be Paraguay and Ecuador. Those are the two that stand out to me as having difficulties moving on to the next round. Of course, that's just my perspective. I've known been wrong before, but I've also been known to be right, at least at the beginning of the season with the whole Manchester City debacle, but then they turned it around. So anyway, but I'm off my pedestal now. Mr. Clam, go ahead.
I like Paraguay. Paraguay is a team that, and I think that the teams, generally speaking, you'll get an Uruguay who have what's his name, the forward from there who played it with who's that?
Suarez?
He's at Atletico now, isn't he? Yeah, there you go. Suarez. I mean, like, you get
Suarez.
one good player can make a team like that, but really the way teams other than Brazil and Argentina are successful is they close up the back, they form a really strong defense, and then they either counterattack or just wait for a set piece to get a goal. And I think Paraguay always has a strong defense. I like them for that. I like them for those 1-0 kind of, I'm just looking at the table here. They haven't lost. They've only won one game in the qualifiers, but they haven't lost a game. They're the only team other than Brazil and Argentina who haven't lost a game, because that's it. They close it up in the back and they score a goal, maybe 2, and that's it. That's what they got for you.
So as far as Uruguay goes, they can always be trouble on the field for sure, but it really depends on how hungry Suarez is.
Yes, we know that he likes to take a bite out of the game.
That's right. He's like McGruff, takes a bite out of crime.
But he only prefers to do that when it's Italian.
When it's Italian, right? The spicy meatball.
He doesn't tend to do that when he's
following
playing.
Do you guys ever hear the player Edmundo from Brazil?
No.
Edmundo, they would have called him. Edmundo. His name was Edmundo. He played for Vasco da Gama. He went to Europe for I don't know, for a couple of years, but he's that kind of Brazilian player. He's totally Luis Suarez kind of player. And he was like that, taking a bite out of guys kind of player. And I remember he was on the Seleção, on the Brazilian national team for not for very many games. He was very talented. He could play really well, but he had such a temper. All a guy had to do was go up and whisper something about his mom or his sister right behind him, and he would turn around and sock the guy.
So he's
like
Zidane.
Exactly what I remember. He got a red card.
He's like Zidane. Same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I think this is going to be an interesting tournament. It might have been. I don't know. There would have been any more interesting with Qatar or I'm sorry for the English, Qatar. But if they were involved, it would have been. I would have really liked to have seen them play, only because I'm convinced that they don't belong hosting a World Cup. I would have loved to have seen them play in this tournament. Australia would have been a nice addition, and that would have made things a little more interesting, because they are hot and cold. Sometimes they play well, sometimes they look god awful. But it would have been more interesting with more teams, obviously. But with what you have now, with the the top four from both groups getting through. It's pretty much if you win a few games, you're going through. That's pretty much what it boils down to.
I think this is a tournament that is real. Despite the interesting games that we'll get in the group stage, it's hard to complain about seeing Argentina play Uruguay and Argentina play Chile and being forced to watch Brazil play Colombia. Like anytime that you get to see that in a competitive match, be it in qualifiers or in a Copa America, it's a good time. It's a tournament that's not really going to start until the quarterfinals.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to watch up until then. Like I said, you're going to have some tasty matchups early on. Is there a player, Los and Peter, that I should be looking out for that I may not know? Beyond Los, Giovanni Lo Celso.
Well, Gio, is close to my heart. I got my my Spurs jersey has him on the back. It's his number on the back there. It's really difficult to say. A lot of the guys that are playing for Argentina are playing from the Argentinian league, so they don't get a whole lot of European exposure. So I don't recognize a whole lot of names as I look over their roster. So aside from Leo and Gio, the Leo and Gio show, I'm not really sure who else to point you in as far as direction on the Argentinian team. So
Peter, anybody I should be watching out for on Brazil or any other team that I'm not aware of?
I expect that Gabriel Barbosa. They call him Gabby Goal. Have you heard of him?
Yes.
He plays for Flamengo. He's like I think he's the best player in the Brazilian league on the team. So
he
he's the one who started their last game. He plays
did
a
not
lot.
play well. I remember him from the Olympics. I remember him going to Inter.
Some guys don't. Yeah. It's hard for some guys don't do well outside the country. I think the big guy for Santos before Neymar, I just lost his name. But yeah, I mean that's just a way of some players. They just getting out of Brazil. Brazil has a different, way of life, and they go someplace that's different. United States, England, even Spain. It's just not the same for them. They can't exist.
All right. And last question before we get you all out of here, and we hope to have you back on throughout this tournament to check in and as we talk about it and keep up with it. Who wins this tournament and why? I'll start with you, Los.
Well, that's a hard question to answer because it's so much can happen, and the way the things are set up, it's like the number one in this group plays the number four in this group, but the way the brackets go, you could end up playing somebody that was in your group already before you even get to the final, and that's kind of different or counterintuitive to how the World Cup is set up. So it's really kind of hard to, with the exception of Korea, Japan, and they did that only because of the geographical logistics there. But typically, what happens in the World Cup tournament, you don't play anybody in your group until outside the group until you reach the final. Should you happen to both get there, that's the way the brackets are set up. That's not the case here. So it's really kind of hard to say. If I was a betting man, it's kind of hard to bet against Brazil. It's kind of hard to bet against Argentina. Those are two favorites for me to come out as number one in both groups and to eventually make it to the final. But again, there are teams that any given Sunday idea, anyone can win. You put your 11 on the field, and on any given day, you could beat someone who wasn't expected to take the loss. So it could happen. But if I had to bet, and I know Sean, of course, is looking to. He's gone now because he's probably out there placing bets.
He's out there placing his wager based on what y'all are saying.
Putting down the parlay on both Argentina and Brazil. So, but if I was a betting man, that's where I would put it, on Argentina or Brazil to win this tournament. if I had a dark horse, I would say only because of the recent play, Bolivia would be a dark horse as a potential upset master in this tournament.
That would be the dark horse of all dark horses.
It would.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that you
That's
can get
a
really
very-
good odds on Bolivia to win a Copa America.
Well, I got $10 is not
Hey, if
doing
you-
anything. I mean, let me talk to Sean later.
You ask Sean
Hey,
about betting odds.
If you can bet on them to show, you'd be in good shape because I think they got a better chance of that.
So Peter, so Sean, Loaf said put $10 on Bolivia to finish third.
Third. So, sorry, you were explaining third.
Third.
No,
Okay.
I don't know what
How
their
do you finish
odds are.
third? How
What?
the hell do you finish third? Is there a playoff or something?
I don't know. Is there a third?
Yeah, they're the third place game.
Yeah,
Is there?
for a game, I think
Yeah.
so.
But the third place game,
Okay.
people don't really put their hearts into it. But let me ask you this: Are there any initial odds on Copa America at all for?
Yeah,
the
there
teams?
will be. Yeah, just give.
And Sean is about to give them to us.
I shall give you those odds in a second. By the way, thank you, Peter, for informing me about Edmundo. Now that there is a legend, if ever we saw one. I've managed to find a Daily Mirror headline, which states, here we go, where is it? I've lost it. Edmundo, balmy Brazilian who killed 3 people in a car crash, fed booze to a chimp and fought with Romario. There we go.
He's a
an
legend.
Absolute legend. How do I not know about this footballer? That's fantastic. Sorry, thanks for the
I
odds.
forgot about that car crash. That's been a long time.
How do you forget about the chimpanzee?
Yeah, how did you feel about the chimpanzee? There's a picture of him feeding your beer to a chimpanzee. It's crazy.
I love I love Peter's reaction was I forgot about the car crash. Not the chimp. The
Not
car
the chimp,
crash.
but the car crash.
Right, here we go. Competition. So you want to know Bolivia? Is that
Yeah,
right?
Bolivia odds to win.
Odds to win. Here we go. Outrights. Okay, so Brazil are favourites at 11-8. Argentina are 13-5. And I have to go to the show more to get the Bolivian odds.
Sure, of course.
Okay.
Kind of like this past season when we had to find
100
Arsenal in the
1.
standings.
100-1 with the English bookmakers.
100-1.
Ooh.
So that
Wow.
means at 100-1, if you bet $10
A $10
on
bet,
Bolivia,
and they
you will
win,
lose $10.
you lose $10. But you have potential to win 100 times 10.
So if you
Dude,
bet if you bet $10 on Bolivia to win, you'll lose $10.
Except you won't get a price for coming third.
Right.
So the each way odds are only to reach the final.
To win outright.
So that's when
if you
we need to
fancy-
set up.
That's quite good. If you fancied Bolivia to reach the final, you get 80-1.
Oh.
So we can set up a too many guys soccer show fund where we can do these weird parlays,
Hey,
and that way
that could be our
spread the-
sponsorship. That's our sponsorship.
That way we can spread the losses out amongst all of ourselves, because clearly at 100-1, if you bet $10 on them, then you will lose $10.
Right.
Peter, who's your favorite to win and why?
So wait, before we get to that, the one I just want to clarify one point with loss, because it's something like I think if Bolivia makes the 3-4 game, they're gonna, and this is what happens. The little team that makes that game, they play their heart out because third place means a lot to that team.
Mhm.
If Brazil and Argentina make the game, they'll forget to put their socks on under their cleats. They'll be like, I don't want to don't film me because it's embarrassing that we're in this game. So like if Bolivia makes that game, they're much more likely to get third than a bigger team.
Point taken.
But yeah. I mean, that's the thing about South American soccer. It's kind of like Spanish soccer. It's like if you don't pick of course, but if you don't pick Real Madrid or Barcelona before the season, same, Argentina, Brazil are way ahead, but it takes one game to knock each of those teams out. And so it's, you think it's going to be one of those two guys, but if they don't do it, I'm going to say Uruguay. I like Uruguay. They always have a couple of guys who can, if they turn it on, they can make a splash.
Yeah, it's a lineup that has teeth in it. Yeah, it's not a bad choice.
So Uruguay are 6-1, Peter. They're fourth favourites with the English bookmakers. Colombia are slightly less at 11-2. So, and then Chile 11-1, Peru 17-1, and pick your price for the rest.
Uruguay's got some players on that team that are that I think through the Copa America we will come to know. Everybody knows Luis Suarez, but Cavani could still be there. Again, always want to see Fede Valverde instead. And I think he's an amazing central midfielder for Real Madrid. One of the guys who I really think has a lot in him, and I'll be interested to see how he does this tournament. Los, Peter, great to talk to you. We'll have you guys back on as we go through the Copa America to keep up with the tournament and let us know how it was going. A pleasure to speak to you both this evening. And thank you for helping Sean figure out his parlay bet that is sure to lose.
Right. Glad to help.
But before we go, the difference between there's a much better chance of Bolivia making it to the final than actually winning the final. 80-1 versus 100-1. I take that 80-1 odds to make the final 100 times
please
over the 100-1 odds to actually win the whole thing.
Peter, don't, because this is really not a hypothetical. Sean's really about to go out and bet this.
I don't think so.
This is we
$10 for $88,000.
No, but we play with live ammunition when it comes to Sean's betting, and it's not $10 here and there. We try to not steer him into the hypothetical. I would take this because 80-1 versus 100-1. No, he's really going to go out and bet that right now.
Well, this is where it doesn't make sense, Mike. So you've got to do the math, because the 100-1, they're giving you a third the odds each way. So you're only getting 33-1 for them losing in the final. Whereas if you bet on Bolivia to get to the final, you're getting 80-1.
Yeah, but they're not making it to the final, dude.
No.
So please don't bet on. Please don't bet on Bolivia. See, this is where it's all well and good where we talk about it in the confines of the show as this hypothetical, but then I also know you, and I know that you're actually going to go out and put money on this.
Bolivia.
Yes, and I would hate to see Otto lose out on his cricket lessons because you get.
Because we back Bolivia. Yeah,
I mean, it's the difference in between another nice vacation and not.
We're talking
we
10
play with
bucks.
live ammunition on this show.
Talking $10, 10 quid. I mean, come on.
Before Peter goes, what is your prediction to win the Euros? Who do you think might win the Euros?
I have no idea. I haven't been following the national teams of Europe so much lately, so I don't know how they're doing.
Okay. Fair enough.
I picked Spain. I picked Spain versus England in the final, and Spain wins.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we're going to get you guys out of here before Sean loses his entire house, which I would like him to keep.
He loses it just $10 at a time. That's all.
No, but he doesn't bet $10 at a time. That's the point. Like, I know this man. I know how this goes. Gentlemen, we will see you later. Thank you very,
Take
very
care,
much.
everybody.
It was a pleasure to talk to
Good night.
Hey. Yep. See ya.
you. Sean.
Michael, let me teach you a little lesson. There was a very famous race, horse race going on in the UK at the weekend called the Derby.
Mm-hmm.
And just before the horses set off, there's normally at least 18 horses in this race. The commentator said, if you have backed the horse in stall 1 or stall 2, I just better let you know that neither of those 2 stalls have won the race in the last 50 years. So your money's dead. And the horse in stall 1 was backed about 10 minutes before the race from 50 to 1 to 16 to 1. And it won the race by 4.5 lengths. So there you see is the Bolivia of betting, where you go for the graveyard stall 1 or stall 2, which would have lost you for the last 50 years, and someone knew something. For the odds to come in from 50 to 1 to 16 to 1, someone knew something somewhere. There we go.
Yes, and we've seen that happen, and it says Acts 7 verse 14, and the Lord did say the sun shall shine on every dog's ass once in a while.
Is this Samuel L. Jackson from taken out of what's that film?
Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction. Thank you.
Yes, it was it is in the Bible. It says it in Acts, and the sun doth shine on every dog's ass once in a while. And that is why we bring on Celtic Cam,
but not
because
Bolivian arses, obviously.
Yeah,
because you don't think Bolivian arses are worth backing.
No, I'm not doing it. Like I said, the sun does shine on every dog's ass once in a while, and we bring in Celtic Cam because that means Scotland's in a tournament for the first time since 1800.
You can't have been born the last time Scotland were in a tournament, Cam, were you? You look far too young.
I was young. I think the last tournament is 99 or 96, I think.
96, I think.
96. So yeah, I was 3. So
there you go.
I was probably watching it, but not understanding.
Yeah.
So we're going to start our Euro preview with Group D, which features England, Scotland, and 2 other teams who are not England and Scotland.
Yeah.
I believe Croatia's in there, maybe the Czech Republic, but who really cares? It's England, Scotland, and 2 other teams who are not England and Scotland. Cam, I'll start with you with these 2 questions. Scotland, first major tournament since '96. Tartan Army has been waiting almost over 25 years for this. 25 years exactly. How do you fancy Scotland's chances getting out of the group to start with?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we're done, when all is said and done, I think we're going to be second in the group. Unfortunately to England, I think. Granted, with the success that we've had under Steve Clark, I think it's something like 9 consecutive unbeaten games. And then just the 25 years of not having been in a major tournament it plays a massive impact on the players. I mean, we saw that with Christie at the end of, that final against Serbia. The whole country is behind them over and over. So, I think it's going to be a tough game in England at Wembley. Without a doubt, it's always tough for Scotland when they play at Wembley. But, I think in terms of Croatia and Czech Republic, I think we're going to be able to beat them. We've been able to beat Czech Republic last couple of games, and Croatia seems to just not be really melding well together as a team, even though they do have some star players. So, I really fancy Scotland to do well during the groups.
Now, Sean, don't look now. England are amongst the favorites to win a tournament. I don't know how you feel about that, but England are amongst the favorites to win a tournament. I know you guys will assume that means they're not going to get out of the group stage.
No, I can see us getting out of the group stage, but unfortunately we were given the draw of death. So let's talk about the group first, and then we'll talk about what happens if we get out. And by the way, you can still end up finishing third in your group and progress through.
Yeah, there are only, 6 teams that are going to leave?
Yes, correct. At the end of that first round. So I was
Portugal proved it to us last time around. You can not win a game in regulation and actually win the whole entire tournament.
Yeah. So it's interesting because if you look at world rankings, the group is quite a tough group. England are ranked 4th in the world, Croatia 14th, the Czech Republic I think are 22nd, and Scotland are 50th. But that's probably not a fair reflection on Scotland's most recent results in competitive matches. I had to look it up. Cam, do you know? Firstly, do you know how many times England have played Scotland at football?
I know this is going to lead to a very upsetting end of the conversation.
No, not particularly. That's why I looked it up. But anyway, yeah, have a guess.
I think they've been playing against each other since 1872. And I'm trying to think how many games that would be approximately. I'm going to say about 120? 100?
You're very good, actually. You're correct. 30th of November, 1872 was the first England-Scotland game.
That was
and it was only one of 3 times that the game finished 0-0. It didn't finish 0-0 till nearly 100 years later.
Interesting.
So we've played each other 113 times, to be precise, which must make it as old as the Argentina-Brazil fixture. Do you want to know? Do you want to have a guess at what the current victory tally is for both teams?
Gosh, no, this is where it gets depressing. I imagine it's going to be, what we had, maybe 40 wins.
Oh, very good, very close. 41.
Okay. All right.
And England only have 48 wins during that time.
Oh, that's not bad.
So there's very little in it, and 24 draws.
Wow.
So if we look at the history,
you said 130 times they've played.
113.
113. Okay. I know that it was the first international fixture to ever be played.
And interestingly, with your cricket knowledge, Mike, the first 7 or 8 times they played in friendlies as well. All of the games were played at the Oval, which is obviously where they play Test cricket now.
Yes.
So, looking at the history, there's not a lot in it. I remember distinctly watching our game in '96, which was also at Wembley in very hot sunshine, and it's obviously infamous for Gazza's second goal, and probably more infamous for Gary McAllister's missed penalty as well, I suppose. Or I can't remember whether he missed it or Seaman saved it, but anyway. And obviously Gazza's celebration doing the dentist chair, or a fake dentist chair. Will it be as easy? I don't think it will. I agree with you. I think Steve Clarke is an excellent manager who, funny enough, with all these teams looking for managers in the Prem, I don't know why anyone hasn't looked at Steve Clarke, or why he's never mentioned for the Spurs job, or the Everton job, or the Wolves job, or the Palace job, you name it.
He's got Premier League experience too. He was an assistant coach at, I think it was Chelsea.
Yeah.
You know, he understands the EPL. You're absolutely right. I've always wondered why, in the recent years, seeing his form with Scotland, he has never been considered.
But he'll probably hang on to see if he can get you qualified for the World Cup, which is the big one.
Yep.
So in terms of this game, I think actually because so many of your players play in the Premier League nowadays as well, I think at least half the current team.
Yeah.
And we're not talking slouches in Tierney, Robertson, John McGinn. So I think this is going to be a lot closer than it's given credit for. I think I've like you, I think Croatia are on the downslope now. That team is getting a little bit too old. I can't believe that Luka Modric is still captaining the team.
Yep.
Although I watched the game they played Belgium in a friendly. I watched that 90 minutes, and Belgium looked by far the better team. I don't know a lot about the Czech Republic. I didn't realise you'd beaten them twice, did you?
Yeah, it was so the first game there, it was a bit, it's not really it was a win, but we were playing like their C squad. That was when they had that massive COVID outbreak and they had to bring in all these reserve players. But that second game, that was pretty much their full first team that we played, and we did beat them. So first win, okay, but that second one really did solidify us as, kind of moving up in the world of football again.
Yeah. Okay. So my prediction is, I think England will get 7 points, and I think you guys have a very good chance of progressing either as the second or third best team, because quite rightly I can see you picking up at least 4 points. I think we might squeeze past you. I've already set up a table in the pub. Now, luckily for us, where we're situated in England, we are the furthest point away from Scotland, basically. If you draw a line from Scotland all the way down to the UK and you got to the edge of Devon, that's not to say that I'm pretty certain that night we'll see a few people turning up to our local pub in kilts. Because
sure. Yeah. We've been known to move south quickly.
Yeah, they have been known to move south quickly. And I'm going to give you a prediction. I think that England will beat you 1-0.
Okay, interesting. I was gonna.
We're going out on the 18th. We're all going out on the 18th, Sean. We're all going out. We're going to watch. We'll video chat you when we get out there. But I think the majority of us, including me, are going Scotland in this game.
There we go.
The Tartan Army's growing.
They're I find it hard to root against a country whose national animal is the unicorn and whose national color is pink.
How can you hate that?
No,
Right.
Sorry, you
guys,
can't hate that stuff.
Give me 1 second. I have a cat issue. Hold on.
You're fine, but Cam, before we let you go, give us real quick. I guess the aspirations are get out of the group. Would be a good finish for Scotland.
With the cherry on top, beating England,
yeah, or even not losing to England,
or honestly,
because other than that, I think you can beat the Czech Republic and hang on with a Croatia team that I don't think is as good as they could be.
Yeah.
Getting out of the group and then set you up well for qualifying for the World Cup, which is, I don't think Scotland's been in the World Cup since the 80s.
Yeah, I think, I'm trying to think the last time. I think it may have been the 80s. Yeah, I can't even think in recent history the last time they were at the World Cup.
So, but before we let you go, give us your order of finish, how you see this group going.
So, I think, I do think, unfortunately, England would probably be, top of the group. Then I think it's going to be Scotland. Again, they've been playing really well. England, obviously, favorites. And then I think it's going to be Czech Republic and then Croatia. I think, again, as we've all kind of said, that Croatia team is they're not working well together. They're a little bit older. And then the Czech Republic is kind of going through a little bit of a rebuild with their team at the moment. So, I think it's England, Scotland, Czech Republic, and Croatia.
All right, my man. England, well, we'll get you back on as.
Hold on. That would mean you potentially meet France in the following round.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's an easy one, though. That's an easy one.
So here we are. Here's the betting tip for today. Bolivia to get to the final of the Copa America at 80 to 1. Scotland to win the Euros at 250 to 1.
Good thing I got some money sitting around for that.
As long as you have, as long as it's your $10, as long as your $100, not mine, I'm fine with it. All right, Cam, we will get you back in as the tournament goes on, and I look forward to seeing you on the 18th at 3 p.m. when Scotland takes on England. It is sure to be a good time.
Can't wait. I can't wait.
So, talk to you later, my brother.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your night.
Come on, Eddie Howe.
Instead,
too soon.
What's
too
about
soon.
to happen.
Too soon.
He's in the waiting room. He is. All right, are we ready? All right.
I think we should all turn our cameras off.
Is it G? Yeah, okay.
Yes. I think we should all just turn our cameras off.
Okay, here we go.
All right, we can do.
What? You sent them home, G. I know they're expensive. I'm sorry.
Hey, what's going on, gentlemen? How are we doing today?
Knew he was going to do this at least once.
Well, I can't be normal for once in a while here.
I knew he was going to play it straight, and I keep waiting to say, like, he's going to play it straight.
Gotta keep you guys on your toes. You know, I had something up my sleeve, maybe the Wizards sleeve of Wizard right now, but I got a little something up my sleeve with the Italians coming up. You know, we got the blue, we got the Azzurri, got my love of Shaka, so we'll continue with the blue color here. So let's go. So,
G, tell us about Group A: Italy, Switzerland, Turkey, and Wales.
All right. Huge fan of the Azzurri. As you can tell, I'm wearing their uniform right now. But we got a lot of things going on right now with Mancini. Mancini, is the head coach, but we have a lot of experience, a lot of youth coming through right now, and a lot of the youth is actually pulling their weight, and we're actually having a 27 game unbeaten streak right now. We have it locked down right now with Bonucci as well as Giannini right in the center as our defenders. Our midfield, we got Sandro Turani. We have people like, I gotta look at my list here because there's so many different people going on. Jorginho, we have Immobile sometimes can play as a false nine. He can play back just a little bit, but he's a phenomenal striker. We have Florenzini right now. He's injured, but they're saying that he will be back on Saturday. We have Mario Verratti right now from PSG, who's having a phenomenal season. He's injured. It's kind of questionable right now, but we have a lot of youth with mixture with a lot of experience. A lot of our defenders, especially our defenders, have a lot of the World Cup experience and the world stage. So they bring their experience to the youth. They're playing in a 4-3-3 right now. And the greatest thing about their formation is they rely a lot on their defenders to move up as they're another attacking midfielders, attacking forwards, another guy kind of sliding up there right now. Right now, especially in Italy, they're kind of opening up the stadiums. They're about 25 to about 45% of the stadiums will have fans in there. So right there is going to be an advantage to the Italian team. And I think the Italian team, they will have maybe a little hiccup against Switzerland, but I think they should get all 9 points in the entire Group A. But their first game is against Turkey, and just like you guys, we maybe heard of one or two different people on the actual Turkish team. I'm going to try not to butcher their names, but of course I'm going to because that's what I do sometimes, just like with Mike. But Kalarg Sanyunyuk from Leicester City, the defender, he is a solid brute of a man.
Soyuncu.
Whatever you guys say, yeah, bless you. But he's a solid defender. But what Turkey is about is you don't have really a lot of these big names, but they play extremely hard as a team. They're a very physical team. A lot of the Eastern European teams are very physical. There's no studs. And looking at my notes, there's no studs, but very hard working, very physical team. Most of them play in the Turkish Super League. So their coach played in the Super League when he played as well as the coach. So a lot of their guys is from that Eastern League right now. So they're going to be playing very Eastern European League soccer, where the Western European teams will have an easy way to dismantle them. They're going to be kind of a thorn in people's sides. Going to be a very physical team. It's kind of those teams that when you're up 2-0, 3-0, that they're going to start hacking your leg, kind of hitting your knees, stuff like that, start getting your injuries just because they're not at that skill level like the Swiss and like the Italians. So I think this game on Friday is going to be a very important game. They always say that the first game that you win is the most important game. It has to be number one of the group play. So right now I have Turkey actually number 4 in my league. Who I have in my number 2 is the mighty Swiss, the Swiss cheese. So we have people like Shaqiri and Xhaka who will control the mids. Another person you guys might have heard is Liechtensteiner, who played a little bit in the European League. I'm sorry, in England as well as in Italian League with Juve. Jan Sommer is a goalie who plays for Mönchengladbach, whereas most of the Swiss team actually plays for the Mönchengladbach as well as the Bundesliga. So you have a lot like-minded Central Europeans playing players that they know how they play with each other, the style of the actual league itself. Not too many of the guys playing outside leagues, where I think I'm a big fan of. You play in that same league, doesn't matter if you're on the same team, you know how that league plays, and you kind of play up to that standard. So teams like Turkey, teams like Swiss, most of the teams are playing in one league, kind of has an advantage. They kind of know how to play that style of that league with each other. But the biggest thing is how many times have they played together? And where Swiss comes along is they always play almost the exact same formation, a 3-5-2. I'm going to screw up his name, but Vladimir Petkovic, the head coach, but he is the type of coach just like I am. If you're available, I'm going to play the exact same lineup if we're having success and not change it. And they have great success over the last about year and a half, where they're not really losing. If they lose against Spain 1-0. But there have been beating some teams like Ukraine, some of the heavier Eastern European teams, Croatia, which I have right now, somehow gotten to the finals in our little fantasy league that we're doing right now. But they have some very strong teams. So in my notes, they're a solid team. Not a lot of depth that's going to play against them. They play hard. They're very smart, and they make up for their the lack of superstars with their IQ and how their precision play. I'm sorry, Shaqiri is not a world-class, changer of a soccer game, but he is relied on very heavily under this system. But they have success, so you can have success if you're a no-namer. It just matters if the coach and the team and you just fit just so perfectly in it. And my last team, my third place team, Wales. So I think Swiss will have the second place. They'll have 6 points. They'll beat Turkey and Wales. They'll lose against Italy. And I think Wales might squeak out a win. I think there'll be 1-1-1. I think Wales will beat Turkey. I think they'll lose against Italy. I think they'll tie Switzerland, to believe it or not. We've heard these names before, but Bale, Daniel Jones, Aaron Ramsey. I'll have a tear right now for Aaron Ramsey. Got the biggest waste of Arsenal's free money. Nico Williams, and don't forget Joe Allen, the old Liverpool Joe Allen. So they have some some older names, but some younger names as well. Normally they play in a 3-4-3. Nothing really spectacular besides those kind of 4 or 5 big names. They kind of drop off as well. So their issue also is a lot of depth. A lot of them play for Cardiff City, so they have some similarities when they play on the same team. But again, the quality of those players isn't really that deep. You have Ryan Giggs, so you have this experience on a coaching staff that might bring you to that next level. Just get some of those midline kind of players to come up to the level of Bale, Jones, Ramsey, Williams, so forth and so on. But he can only do so much. Players are only players that can only rise so high. So overall, I'm very excited to watch the Azzurri, to watch the Blue go very deep into this tournament. I don't think they'll win it. I think it's a hope and a dream. But for Group A, I think Italy will have all 9 points. I think Swiss will have 6. I think Wales will have 4. And I'll think Turkey will have 0. And that's kind of my rundown for Group A.
So let's get to a couple points. Number one, last time Italy won a major tournament was 2006, right?
Yes.
And when they won that tournament, they won it based on defense. Now you look at them right now. I know it's been a tough road over the last couple of years, failing to qualify for the World Cup and stuff like in that. But this is a team that has conceded exactly 2 goals since 2019.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they haven't
they've
lost, I
gone.
think, since March 2018 or something like that. It's an unbelievable 27 game.
They're on a
Honestly, but prior
ridiculous
to that,
run.
they dropped heavily to the point I'm like, holy crap! Like we're gonna be a major rebuilding for the Azuri, and like you said, we won some major tournaments. We're going deep in tournaments before this huge drop off. But I'm so glad that we came up very quickly on the kind of rise up. Like you said, the last about 3 years, we've been looking very good. And again, it's that mixture between the veterans and the youth coming through.
Can their defense, but they haven't played. It's not like through the course of this that they've been playing the top teams in the world.
Correct.
I think their last loss was to Portugal back in 2018. Other than that, their games have been against the likes of Ukraine, Liechtenstein, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Armenia, Finland, Greece. They beat the Netherlands. They drew with Poland. But can Italy handle a step up in class?
Yes.
It's
going to be a challenge, but yes, I think their youth and their ignorance. Sometimes youth is ignorance. I think they'll play right into that. Hey, we can beat anyone kind of mentality. I think they can go up to and challenge Germany, England, even France. I think they'll lose against France. I think they'll compete heavily compared to what they have in previous years. They're right there. They're right there.
Sean, go ahead.
I'm just going to ask you to rewind a second because you do look incredibly intelligent wearing those glasses.
All right, I'm sorry for you guys.
Just go back to
my bad.
Can you go back to your points? Your prediction for the group again? You said that. Can you go through that one more time?
Yes, sir. I think Italy will win all their games. I think they'll beat
9 points. Yeah.
Yes, sir. I think Switzerland will win 2 games.
That's 6. Yeah.
Yep. I think Wales will win 1 and tie 1.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. And I think Turkey will tie 1 and lose the other 2.
You said Turkey with 0 points. I was just going to point out to you that was mathematically impossible.
You're absolutely correct.
Thrown in the draw. So that's
yep. I forgot to add that one draw with it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So yeah, I think Wales has a little bit. I think they need a little bit extra to maybe beat Switzerland to get that extra point. They're kind of a wild card, but I really do think Switzerland will remain that number 2. Now Wales will get that extra bonus kind of wild card to get to the next level. From there, it just matters who they draw. I think they can possibly win. Just matters who they draw. They have the kind of team that just matters if they kind of mix together that one day and who they draw and if the stars kind of align kind of team right now.
All right. Well, we want to thank you, G, and we'll get you back on as the tournament goes on to keep us updated on what Italy and the rest of the teams in Group Group A are doing.
Not a problem. Looking forward to next time seeing you guys.
Take care, my brother.
All right, later, guys. Be good.
So, Mike, just a little fact here. I'm just looking at the opening games of the Euros. And there's an incredible... Firstly, the last few... the only one that didn't have both teams scoring was in 2008 when Switzerland lost 1-0 to the Czech Republic. Mm-hmm. But that game has always had both teams scoring. And here's my little prediction. I think Turkey will get a draw in that first game. I think G was swishing them aside a bit too easily. If you look at Turkey's recent...
I remember what Turkey was last time that I saw them in a tournament, which would be Euro 2008.
Yeah.
And they went to the quarterfinals. Yeah. And it was that Turkish team that refused to know when they were defeated. And I believe it was 2 or 3 games that they won on last minute injury time, 90 plus minute goals. And they kept doing that all through the tournament until they finally, I believe they might have been Russia that finally got the better of them in the end, or Russia or Germany that got the better of them in the end. Turkey is always an entertaining team to watch. I agree with G. The fact that so many of them play in the Turkish league gives them a sort of familiarity that a lot of teams don't have. But the Turkish league isn't that bad. It's not one of the big five. It's not the Premier League or La Liga, but it's a very competitive league, as we have seen.
And yeah, and what's great about it too is they, even outside of the big three in Istanbul, you still have a competitive team. There's like 5 or 6 teams that have a shot. I don't want to say every year, but consistently there's about 5 or 6 teams. And that's actually been a more recent phenomenon. That's not just Galatasaray, Besiktas, and Fenerbahce. You're getting other clubs that are outside of the hub of the country, which is, I think, very positive. I think it's going to serve the national team well. And they have pedigree in these big tournaments. Don't forget they finished third in 2002. It's 20 years ago, but still, they've done it. So there's something to be said about Turkey in international tournaments. I think that's a team people don't want to play against.
I think that, again, the Euros have a tendency to throw up an unusual winner that the World Cup does not. We have seen it with Greece. We've seen it with Portugal. We've
And
seen Denmark. Even if you want to that extent, when France won it prior to winning the World Cup, it could have been seen a little bit as out of the blue, right? It was Spain won the Euros before. No, I'm sorry. Spain won. Spain won the Euros before they went. They went Euros, World Cup,
Euros, World Cup, Euros. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
France went World Cup, Euros. They won in '98, and then they won the Euros in 2000.
I think France also did a Euros, World Cup, Euros.
I don't
France
believe.
and
I'm look
France,
that up.
I believe. Look it up, but I believe France and Spain are the only two teams to win 3 consecutive tournaments.
You think what? Sorry, France won 3 consecutive.
Yeah, I believe France won 96. I think France won 96, 98, 2000.
No, they finished third in '96.
Okay. So they just went 98, 2000?
Yeah, they went 98 and 2000. 96 was won by Germany.
So that just means how impressive it was that Spain.
But they still finished third. I mean, it wasn't like France was bad. They still finished third. So
no, I mean but it is a tournament that tends to, more than the World Cup, have a unpredictable winner.
Greece won. I mean, you pointed that out. Greece won. I mean, dang.
Greece won. Denmark won.
Kicking the crap out of people, but they still won.
I mean,
as you said, Portugal won without winning any games.
Yeah, Portugal won without winning a game in regulation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more than possible that we could have that, and so that's where we bring in. That's where, if a Turkey was to get on a run, they could throw a couple spanners in work. I don't think that Turkey is. There's nothing about Turkey right now that says that they're that outlier that could win. But again, I still to this day don't understand how Greece won it.
I don't either. I don't think anybody does.
I mean, and as I was even mentioning to G, sometimes you just are able to defend your way to this particular title.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I imagine it'll be more difficult now that there's 24 teams as opposed to when there were 16, but it's still entirely possible. Absolutely.
Well, actually, the 24 teams is what helped Portugal, because other than that, they wouldn't have even been in the second round.
They wouldn't have been in the second round, yeah.
So we're going to pause and we're going to bring on the artist formerly known as Byron Robb, who apparently has gone full German. German Rob, how goes it, sir?
Hello. Hey, how's it going, fellas?
How you doing? So
Okay,
talk to us about, um, well, a couple of things going on, Rob. Before you get started talking about Germany, um, I should have told you to change shirts first. Talk about the U.S. winning the gold winning CONCACAF Nations League last night and what that means. That 3-2 victory up in Colorado.
Oh man, I mean, it was a crazy night, and I mean, if you looked at this U.S. MNT Twitter, it was bananas. This match this night had everything you can imagine and some. And I think the night was very special for a lot of the youth kids, like the ones who kind of grew up together, like the McKinneys, the Adams, the Pulisics, the Gio Reynas. This is their first taste of really a big matchup versus a top level competition in CONCACAF, and they passed, barely passed, but they passed. And the most important thing is they won. I mean, you got to win these matches, regardless of how pretty it looks. And it was very ugly, unwatchable plenty of times, but they won, and this is big. It's big for the confidence boost. It's big for World Cup qualifying, and it's big just to get into the psyche of Mexico, because now Mexico, who pretty much, except for one or two players, had a full roster, full strength squad. They now have to think that we can't necessarily beat them as easily as we thought we could. So it's big night, huge night.
Can they move on from this and use this as a springboard to go into qualifying and then the World Cup and move on from there? Can we use this as a match to say we beat a team that was better than us in a hostile environment? I mean, yes, it was in Colorado, but when Gio Reyna gets hit in the head with a projectile from the stands, I know it's not a home crowd that's doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Can the U.S. men's national team use this as a catalyst to move on and accomplish some things?
Yes, most definitely. And this match said to them that we can win these ugly matches. We can go toe to toe with the nastiest of them all in our confederation, which is Mexico. And they're going to have to do a lot more of this when they go to Panama, when they go to Honduras, when they go to El Salvador. This is what they're going to deal with. They're going to deal with players who, frankly, have no business being in the same, pitch as them. Because a lot of these players play in some of the best teams in the best leagues, but it gets nasty. These are nasty matches, and now they told the world that they can play this way and they can win this way, and they have now earned their stripes from all those past generations of USA teams who have played Mexico, who have beaten Mexico. They've earned a little bit of a spunk today. I mean, last night, and definitely it could take them over into World Cup qualifying. I mean, it's a different animal, of course. You have to go to not the nicest fields, not the nicest stadiums, even worse fan bases, more hostile, waking up, at 3 o'clock in the morning, all that. They deal with all of that, but they passed the first test and they can move on. And I'm confident that they will do well in qualifying.
So, moving on to the tournament that's actually taking place this summer, the one that we got to worry about next. Germany is in Group F. There is no way to term that other than the group of death. France, the defending World Cup champions. Germany, Hungary, an up-and-coming team, and Portugal, the defending Euro champions. What do you make of this group?
Man, this group has to be one of the groups that is going to have 3 teams making it out into knockarounds. It has to. The talent is too stacked, and I believe Germany plays France in the first match of the group stage, and that is going to be insane. I mean, it would be a shock to me if either one of the Germany, Portugal, or France do not make it out of the group. I mean, they have to. They're just too good. They're too stacked. But I mean, the winner of this tournament can come out of this group. I mean, that's how good each of them are. Germany probably less so. Considering they were in a little bit of a funk up until today. I mean, they won their friendly against Latvia. It looked like Germany of Brazil, in Brazil, 2014 with the 7-1 score. But it's friendly, I know, but it's a tough road. I mean, that first match of Germany and France is going to be probably the match of the group. It's a shame we're getting it so early, but it's going to be wonderful to watch.
Germany, not only Germany, but you would say whoever gets out of this group has a legit shot at winning the tournament. Whoever gets out, especially top, when you go through that gauntlet, because you're going to have to play
England.
Well, England, but basically you're going to see every style of play that you could see. France are a better attacking team with a good defense. They're going to like to be on the counterattack. Portugal is going to try and defend and hope that that Cristiano Ronaldo can get them the goal that they need. Germany is pretty solid back to front. We saw for the first time in a long time, albeit against Latvia, but this is the first time in a long time that I've seen them look like that sort of clinical, powerful, Yogi Love team that they look like in Brazil. Number one, what style do you think gets out of there the best? Which of these teams do you have the most confidence in?
I have the most confidence in France just because they've been there. All their players, for the most part, are coming back. Even I believe Olivier Giroud is there as well. I know, and they're just very experienced. And they're having a player that wasn't there in the World Cup, in Kingsley Coman, who's a threat on the wing, and he doesn't even start on that squad. I mean, he starts at Bayern, but he can't even start on France. I mean, that's how loaded they are. The only thing with France that I'm not sure about is how well will Karim Benzema integrate into that squad. He's been gone for a long time. That was usually Olivier Giroud's spot, and he did it really admirably. He didn't really need to score goals. He held up play. He let the wingers, and then Dembele, Griezmann, and Mbappe do all the work. But now Karim Benzema wants the ball. Karim Benzema is going to score goals. He's going to try to score goals. He's going to shoot the ball plenty, as he probably deserves to, because he's such a talent. How is that going to play into how France do things? I mean, I don't know. But it's still new. I mean, I think they only had 2 matches together, and the first group match will be match 3 with Karim back. But they have to be, the ones to watch. And Germany's, they puzzle me, because only recently they've been starting to play 3 out of the back, and Rudiger was there today. He wasn't there in the previous friendly, and you could definitely tell that he's much more of an upgrade over there. And then Joshua Kimmich, who normally plays in midfield, they asked him to play right wing back, and which is, we all know Joshua Walter Kimmich can play multitude of positions, either as a right back or right wing back apparently, and as a center defensive midfielder. But he has to be on the field. I don't know whether the midfield is as strong, because Toni Kroos is up there. He's very he's really good on the ball, but can he be quick with the ball, moving it from the back line up to the forwards? I mean, that's still, like, he's not as quick as he used to be. And is Goretzka going to take his spot back? He's not back healthy yet. He hasn't played in a while, even though he's on his roster. And then Thomas Muller, they don't have a number 9, and Thomas Muller being asked to play the number 9, that's not his spot. So I know he scored a goal today, but and they're going to continue to do that. I don't know. So that they really confused me. But I have faith that they're going to get out of the group and they'll make it to the knockout.
So I guess the big issue is we look at the group and we say, oh, there's no way that, given that only 6 teams leave, that one of these teams shouldn't be the one. All 3 of these teams should make it in. But that all depends on them being able to beat each other, mm-hmm. and them being able to beat up on Holland or on Hungary.
Yep.
It is highly possible that one of these 3, Portugal, if not more, right? Hungary's not awful.
Nope.
If one of them does not make it out of the group stage, who do you think it is and why?
I think it's going to be Hungary, because I think.
I was going to say if it's one of Portugal, Germany, and France. If one of them is not to join Hungary because they just don't accumulate enough points amongst themselves, who gets left out?
I think it has to be Germany. Because Portugal just has so much talent. Cristiano Ronaldo, he's back and healthy. I know he got hurt in the last Euros. And now you have extra firepower in Andre Silva. You have Bernardo Silva there. You have Renato Sanchez, who's coming back, after, being, kind of lost on the football pitch for about 4 years, but he's back in proper form. So I think it's going to have to be Germany, simply because I think, if they lose the France game, which they easily could have, it's going to be really tough for them, to turn it around and get their confidence back. Because I know today's win is, definitely put some confidence and pep in their step, but I find it could be short-lived. I think, Yogi Löw does not have a ton of friends on this squad. I think part of the reason they're playing for him a little bit more now is because they know he's leaving. So they want to have a good send-off and a good showing. But if they lose to France, and if it's not, even close, then, it could be a disaster all over again. So I think if I had to pick one of the 3, it'd probably be Germany, simply because the other 2 are just so good.
All right, my man. Well, we'll get you back throughout this tournament to check in on the group of death. Good to talk to you as always.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Yeah.
Man, if that ain't the game to go out to Friday a week, France and Germany at 3 p.m. Stead, 3 p.m. Friday.
Next Friday?
Week. Yeah.
What is it? The same day
I can do
that
that.
play Scotland?
No, that's the England France is the first match day. Scotland and England is the second. So about a week later.
Fine.
So I know Scotland and England is the Friday the 18th. I'm sorry, I lied. Stud is Tuesday the 15th.
Tuesday the 15th, yeah.
So you got to do 2 games that week. You got to do France and Germany on Tuesday the 15th, and Scotland England on the 18th.
Okay. They're at 3:00, right?
Yes, I know that's tough.
3:00 games work. 3:00 games probably work the best out of all the times, because
I hope they do, because they're the only ones that we can go and see.
Mm-hmm.
Right now during the week, I don't know of many places around us that are opening up at 9.
Yeah. which is a shame.
Remember, it's just post-COVID.
It's still COVID. Yeah, still going on.
Hey, wait until you see the times for Qatar in 2022.
Yeah, exactly. Because they
When
have to play them in midnight anyway when it's not 119 degrees out.
I think the games are like 5, 9, and 1.
Hmm.
So that leads me to believe that you and I will not be watching any of them.
Probably not.
So to wrap up our previews of the Euros, we have covered Group A, Group D, and Group F. So that leaves Chelsea might cover Groups B, C, and E.
Yep, here I am. Got some of my these groups have some of my perennial favorite teams. I'm a Polish American. We've got Poland in these groups. I studied abroad in Ukraine, and of course, I brought my old Ukrainian phrase book here, and it actually Dynamo Kiev graje z Manchesterom. It actually says Dynamo Kiev is playing Manchester United in my Ukrainian phrase book. So also,
and we had a good friend that we went to graduate school with who used to study with a bust of Lenin in a room that had a Russian flag, a Soviet flag, and a Ukrainian flag on opposite sides of the room.
That is true. Yes.
And Oleg Blokhin was an absolute master at football.
It's interesting. We're still friends on Facebook, and he still very actively follows both the Ukrainian and Russian leagues.
Okay.
So I'm loaded with additional insight.
You know what? We should. I'll be up over July 4th weekend. If one of the teams is playing, we need to get Kowalski out and reunion.
Yes.
I watched the United England match back in 2010 with him.
Nice.
And it was a good time.
Cool.
Anyway, so let's start with the group B, my man. The group that has Belgium, Denmark, Finland, and Russia.
Yeah.
It's hard to see anybody but Belgium coming out on top of this group.
You've
Unless
got
you're
to
Belgian.
I mean, you've got to think Belgium's going to win. They were 10 for 10 in their qualifying run up, and they scored 40 goals while only conceding 3. So, I mean, yes, they would be the odds-on favorite. They're the top team in the FIFA rankings. It was almost disappointing they're third in the most recent World Cup, just because, I mean, you sort of expected more out of them. I mean, they're in their golden generation right now, and that's kind of coming to an end. It's one of their last chances. I mean, I know Cotter's only next year, but they're coming to the end of the run. Guys like
this was
Hazard.
a run that started. Typically when we think of a golden generation, it's maybe across 2 tournaments, 3. If you get really, really lucky.
Yeah.
This Belgian team has been there or thereabouts for the better part of a decade, if not more.
Right.
And you almost feel like if they don't win this tournament now, it has to go down as one of the biggest disappointments, considering the players at some point in time that they have had come through this. And I know that they don't have everybody who they would like available to them, but this is still, or even 100% healthy, but it's still a pretty decent Belgian team.
Yeah. I mean, you still have Eden Hazard. He had he had a rough year this year. Really hasn't panned out for Real the way that he was just the all-world player at Chelsea. But that's definitely still in him. and maybe this is a chance for him to bring that back out.
Oregon's been having a great year at Borussia Dortmund. De Bruyne has developed into an all-world player. Romelu Lukaku's got it figured out. Yuri Tielemans has kind of really come good in the midfield for Leicester. I think,
they
to be
still
honest,
have.
if I had to be honest with you, I think the weakness would be the defense.
I mean, I would agree with you there. They do still have, Thibaut Courtois as their backstop there in the net, and Simone Mignolet too. But yeah, no, I would think that their strength is going forward, their weakness is going back. They've got Jan Vertonghen back there, Alderweireld. There is talent. I mean, to me, honestly, and I haven't filled out my brackets, but I am going to pick Belgium. I do think that they've got everything, and France. I think France, Belgium, England are kind of all up there and around, but and there's just a lot of talent on Portugal, but I just think they've been playing together a long time. Like you said, this has been going on for a while. They're experienced at this. They're the top ranked team in the world. To me, they're the favorites. But they've got to have everything. De Bruyne has got to be able to play the way that Kevin De Bruyne plays. I guess they'll have to throw in a Rudiger mask on him. But hopefully he's out there, because
we saw what it did for Rudiger.
Yeah. It made him a different person. Well, that and Thomas Tuchel maybe, but
Russia is going to be one of the great unknowns coming into this. They're one of the few teams that all of their players play in their domestic league. Now, pretty much all the Italian players playing in the Italian league. The difference is one is Serie A, one is the Russian league.
Right, and now all the German players play for Bayern. But and that's less true now than it used to be. But yes, I mean they've got Alexander Golovin, who is one of the few players who does not play domestically. But they're really interesting. Artem Zhuba, he's just a really big man, and he it's weird the position he plays, because they're trying to get him in the net, but when they're coming out of the back, he'll drop almost into like a false nine, and they'll run like a pivot off of him. So they're an interesting team. They were quarterfinalists in 2018, and their only two losses in the qualifying were to Belgium. So you kind of assume that that'll keep going. They'll lose to Belgium, but the other two teams in the group, Finland and Denmark. Denmark have a lot of domestic players. They've got Schmeichel, but they don't, just looking at their lineup, they don't seem to have the talent of Russia, and they haven't really. They've won a lot of games. They won the 3 World Cup qualifiers they've played in thus far, but they've been playing against pretty much lesser competition. So that's why Denmark. That's why you don't slot Russia into that spot automatically, because Denmark has been having a lot of success. And they're the kind of team that could upset Russia. And, when there's only 3 games in the group stages, and you've got a team like Belgium who are perfectly capable of winning all 3 of those matches. It's, to me, it's either the team that gets the draw against Belgium, or then there's that big head-to-head game. It really only takes 4 points will get a lot of teams through in this. And also, there is the third place, half of the third place teams.
Yeah,
go
but
through, too.
this is the one group where actually 4 out of 6 third place teams go through. But this is one of those two groups where you're looking at and you can honestly say, I don't feel comfortable saying that the third place team in this group can go through.
Yeah.
Finland's making their major tournament debut. I'm still not impressed enough with Denmark and Russia to say that both of them need to go through. One of them will go through because one of them has to.
Right.
But other than that, and it's the same very much as we go on to Group C, the one that had Ukraine, Austria, the Netherlands, and North Macedonia in it. I know your feelings towards the Ukraine.
I mean, you talk about the Ukraine. They won their group in qualifying, and they beat Portugal. And now Portugal has been very inconsistent internationally recently, even though, the amount of talent they have is astounding. But they did win the group. They did beat Portugal and draw against them.
They drew with France recently.
Yeah. They have, they've got Andre
and beat Spain.
Yeah, they're the kind of team that you look at their lineup and, there's some familiar names. There's Zinchenko, there's Yarmolenko. But they have a lot of domestic players from Kiev and Shakhtar Donetsk. Both of those teams, though, are regularly in the Champions League, and they'll make noise. The players there are talented, they're hidden, and they're the kind of team who you might not be expecting. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if they won the group. But I actually, what I'm going to do in my predictions is I'm going to make the Netherlands what we used to call the GOAT. Goats are the greatest of all time now, but they used to be the, womp womp guys. I think the Netherlands might be the team to underachieve this year. Group C, you've also got Austria, who are a very strong defensive team, and they like to play defense. And I'm a Chelsea supporter, and I can tell you when you do that right, it can lead to great things. And Austria also have Arnautovic. There is strike force talent there. Netherlands, they're a big name. They went past their sort of silver generation.
I think they're I think they're emerging into another generation. I think when you have the likes of De Ligt and De Jong, Donny van der Beek, no matter what they're doing at club level, I think that this is on to another good Dutch generation. I think that
your ex-boy's doing very well as well, isn't he?
Memphis Depay.
Memphis Depay, yeah.
Yeah, I think that they've really come good. I have never particularly been sold on this iteration of Austria. And it is a team that continues to go through qualifying and tournaments like that very, very effectively. But when it gets to the actual tournament, tends to be found wanting by better competition. David Alaba is not getting any younger if he's even playing. Marko Arnautovic is what he is. And
is he playing? Has he been picked?
Yeah, I don't even know if they are. I'm just saying,
I don't think he has.
Yeah,
Arnautovic is, yes.
He's picked, is he?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's another one of those teams where I got to be honest. I think Group C, if you had to ask me right now where the two groups that are only going to have two representatives, what would they be? I would say it would be Group B and Group C and
I
yeah,
could see that. I mean,
Group B
again,
and C.
the competition isn't strong. They also, I mean, there's also, in those two groups, there are the kind of duds, like the plunky duds. Macedonia, God bless them, but um, they're a long shot at 500 to 1. The gamblers don't have faith in them, and neither do I. Finland does have Pookie power, but they sort of barely scraped their way in through the Nations League too. I mean, those two teams are on paper kind of 0-3 teams. So that sort of perks up the point level for a third place finisher, because then you're probably going to have two teams with 4 points.
And this could be where 4 points in goal differential makes all the difference. We've had a lot of people who have come through and said, your third place team is going to be sat on 4. I mean, it's not the first time that I've heard that. And that brings us to another group which defines this, where goal differential could be the thing, because you've got Group E. I like Spain. Sweden with Zlatan power, whatever Zlatan may or may not give them.
No Zlatan.
Poland's,
he's hurt.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Poland's got Lewandowski and yeah.
I mean, you know what? There's a lot of big game talent in the group. Obviously, Spain. Busquets, Thiago, Dani Olmo, Rodri. But I mean, the question has always been Murata, and the question being bandied about is Murata a big international tournament number 9? He hasn't really shown that he is. Spain has also been known to disappoint. I feel like, I was in prepping for this, I was reading a lot of Spanish fan sites talking about their team, and I've got to say they're starting to sound like England. Like they're fated to disappoint. Which, I mean, they only won the World Cup 11 years ago. It wasn't like it was an eternity.
Well, you remember what their history was before they went on that 8-year run. It was very much the Dutch, the team that flattered to deceive. I'll pick on Sean and after I let you go and talk about England and how they've just been worn down because they're beyond the flattered to deceive. But, Spain, the greatest national team, never to win anything. Then they finally won something, which leaves that title, I guess, to the Dutch.
Yeah. I mean, it would have to be.
The Dutch did win back in 88? I mean, granted, it was a long time ago, but I believe they did win a Euro a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, Spain's won a couple Euros too. But yeah, the Dutch have always been one of those teams that are I think they're always in the. In fact, when Spain won the World Cup, they beat the Dutch.
Yeah, I think the Dutch have final 3 times and lost in the World Cup, and twice was to the host nation.
Yeah,
it's you feel for the Dutch. Clockwork Orange is always a fun thing to see when it's outforced. Having been swept up in it in the United States, it's always a good time. But then being part of anything is a good time. I'm with you. I think Spain, I don't think this is the best Spain team that I've ever seen, Mike, but I do think they have enough to get past this group.
I agree with you, and I think they're going to win the group. They just have more talent. I mean, they beat Germany 6-0 a couple months ago, and then they drew with Greece. It's the consistency is their issue. I do think they have enough, even if they draw one of the matches. Um, I think that they'll have enough to win the other two. I mean, 5 points, even if they draw two, usually 5 points is enough to get you out of group stage.
The question becomes then, who comes in second in this group? It is, if Group F is the group of death, one might say for Spain or somebody, this is the group of life. There is nothing shocking me about Poland, Slovakia, or Sweden at this point. But one of them has to get through.
I mean, it could be any of them too. Poland's got the best player in the world right now, which you'd have to say that's an arrow that they have in their quiver that no one else does. I mean, they are a little bit thin in other places. They've always been a goaltender factory. To me, the modern Polish history, Poland was in the World Cup, I believe, final in the 70s or semifinal, but they've had really good runs in international tournaments. The 70s was their time, but since then they've kind of just been a goalkeeper factory, sort of like the United States used to be. And they do have Fabianski, they have Szczesny still. They've got strength there, and Jan Bednarek. There's names on this team that like I said, they won their group in qualifying. That they were kind of in a thin group. However, at the initial draw back in 2018, they were in pot one. So I mean, they were a top 10 team in Europe by the rankings. A lot's changed in 3 years, but one thing hasn't, and it's Robert Lewandowski. And he just keeps getting better, which by now he should be starting to hit that over the peak age, but he just keeps getting better somehow. He's doing it in Germany. He's playing against very good competition. Sweden, man, it's hard because they reached the quarterfinals in the last World Cup. They are big game tested, but you kind of wonder about, was that a fluke? And who's going to be the fluke this year? Is it Slovakia? Because frankly, the level of talent on Slovakia, they're another team that sits back and plays defense. So are they going to do that, grind out 3 draws and do that sneak into second place kind of thing? It's you're exactly right. There's a group of, it's not the group of death, the group of life. It's the group of questions. And there's 4 teams with a lot of questions. And I think in a way that'll make it one of the more fun groups to watch.
You feel Slovakia is one of those teams that's a little bit on the older side.
Yeah.
They do have some talent that's there or thereabouts. Marek Hamzik's still in there.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Marek Hamzik had retired 12 years ago, but Marek Hamzik's still going to be playing.
I mean, they've Skriniar.
Mm-hmm. Skriniar was the one I was saying. He was a world-class defender a couple of years ago. Still a young kid. A lot of people like him. Mm, it's tough. It's tough.
It is. I would pick Poland to come out of this group with Spain, not because I'm Polish American, because I am, and yes, maybe I can't escape. They are my European team that I cheer for. But I think I think having Lewandowski is just the difference there. And then, they have Arkadiusz Milik too. So I mean, if they're gonna do everything to stop Leva, their Milik is a person who can create offensively. Um, they have some all right midfielders too, and Kleek from Leeds. Um, Krychowiak, who plays on Lokomotiv Moscow now, but he's been around.
Mm-hmm.
I, you know, I mean, I look at their team and I think that they should finish second. It really just comes down to that.
All right. Well, we'll get you back to keep track of these as they go forward, Mike. It was great talking to you. And before we go, we've got to talk to Sean about England. What is the mood in England as we go on to Euro 2020/1?
Well, if you to ask my local landlord, he can't wait for the fun thing to start, that's for sure, because he knows he'll sell plenty of beer. I think the mood in the country is fairly uplifted. We've had a bit of a spanner in the works with the fact that there's been booing when people have been kneeling down before the games.
I mean, is that a nationwide feeling of stop doing this, or is it a shut your mouths and this is not reflective of all of us type of feeling?
Well, it's coming from inside the stadium, isn't it? Now that
it is, but there's always. I mean, you're always going to have a collective of fans who will do stuff. Like just the other day, we went through a spate of fan obnoxiousness in the NBA, where one fan poured popcorn on a player and another fan in New York spit at a player. Right. Just because you have fans in the stadium, more than anything else, it means that you get obnoxiousness.
Yeah. So it's difficult to say, but there's been a bit of a media frenzy around it. Because a lot of the tournament's based in England anyway, there's plenty of games on at Wembley. Somehow there's not the furore there was before the '96 tournament. Under Venables, there was but of course it's quite difficult to know about atmosphere, because you're talking about the atmosphere in the UK at the moment, because we are only weeks away from normality. 21st of June is our D-Day, and I just think this tournament is coming a little bit too early for my liking, with people going into the pubs and whatever. Let's not forget that we're not completely out of our COVID situation. In terms of our chances, I think with Southgate coming out and saying that anything other than a semi-final appearance would be disappointing, then we're going to be very disappointed.
Only he had kept his mouth shut.
There's
one thing that I know. This next 6 to 8 weeks, as we go through the Euros, Copa America, and then the Gold Cup, is going to be interesting. And we will do our best to keep you up to date. We're going to start doing some more regular shows at shorter intervals so we can just keep up with the tournaments as we rotate through the hosts. Everybody's going to have a very busy summer. We're all going to be exhausted. I have been training my liver throughout COVID. See, this is why the Euros are important. The Euros to me, Sean, are not about the football. The Euros typically serve as a benchmark for the World Cup. But because of the World Cup being over in Asia this year, I won't be drinking for the World Cup like I normally do because, it's in November. I've got to work and the games start at 5. But typically is a very good benchmark for my training for a World Cup because, the amount of liver intensity, like, the liver is a muscle that you need to get in
You're
shape.
gonna have to keep a little diary. You're gonna have to do some selfie diary taking throughout the Euros.
I do that, and I do that regularly because, like, the amount of drinking that normally gets done through a World Cup and the Euros is copious, and I've always found myself by the very end of the tournament wearing down and not being able to hang as much. So I've always wanted to be able to figure if I could get myself in the shape where I could just handle it for the whole entire tournament. Now, we're not going to see it this year because of COVID and restrictions and opening times and stuff like that. And we're not going to, so it may not be until 2026, but it's very important that I'm in shape by 2026 because you know where the World Cup is in 2026.
No.
Here.
Is it? What,
Yes.
in your front
It
room?
is.
Yes, in the United States, Mexico, and Canada.
Is it?
So, provided that we're all still here, we know we'll be going to the games. Anyway,
Oh, sorry,
we got to
just so that I can have this on record. 2 teams are going to do very well at these Euros. They haven't mentioned. One is Turkey, the other's Denmark. Those are my 2 outside shouts.
I really like. It's hard to pick against France. I really feel like they are strong. I want to go. I think Denmark's going to be, or not Denmark. I think Belgium's going to be there or thereabouts again. The only thing I don't know is how the draw works, and I would be more willing to make a full-on prediction outside of France if I had thought. But the 3 teams that I'm closest paying attention to, the ones that I think will bear the most watching, of course, France, Belgium, and I think, again, I love the youth of this England team, and I think there's something to it with Southgate. They are fun to watch. They showed that in the World Cup. I think there's a little more to them than people give them credit for. So I'm going to be watching them, even if I am rooting for Scotland in the first game. But I think there's a little bit more to them than people think this time around. It's not the Venables. It's not the golden generation of Lampard and Gerrard. It's not Sven-Göran Eriksson's England. I think there's a little more to him, but we'll keep a track of that as they go through the tournament. We got to hit the bricks for tonight so that we can get ready to go for the next tournament. So we want to thank Los and Peter for coming on, keeping us entertained, talking about the Copa America, giving Sean some betting tips that I hope that he does not take because I like him and I would like to see him over here in the States. And if he bets, I'm afraid he might lose. G.
There's only one thing I want from Bolivia, and it's not betting.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm quite sure. But that's not legal here either. Coach G, for coming on, telling us a little bit about the Italy and Group A. Rob for coming on, talking to us about Group F, and Mike for coming on and talking about every other group under the sun. And of course, Cam for sitting and talking with Sean and talking about England, Scotland, and Group D. We will be on a little bit more regularly over the tournament as we rotate through everybody. But until then, enjoy the first weekend of the tournament. It promises to be an interesting week. I mean, if you are up on Sunday, I think that you can watch football from 9 until midnight and not have nary a bad game in there. So I want to thank the cast of the Too Many Guys Soccer Show, especially producer Stead and Sean. Thank you very much. We did all right this week. We'll try and do better next week. I'm Mike, and this has been the Too Many Guys Soccer Show.